Want to know a simple and effective way that you can thicken up your soups as well as add some nutrition at the same time? Stay tuned because in this video I'm going to show you 2 ways that you can do just that, and you might be in for a treat. Konnichiwa, Pat Tokuyama here, creator of the Japanese Cooking Club, as well as the All Day I Eat Like a Shark YouTube channel, which you're watching right now. Plant-based Japanese food made simple. So if you want to see more plant-based Japanese cooking videos like this one, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's go ahead and get into today's little topic. So today we're going to be making 2 soups. And we're going to be using soy milk, tounyu, as well as some of the okara, which is optional. Okara is the leftover from soy milk making. If you ever make soy milk at home, you may know that you're left over with the soybean pulp after making the milk, and that is known as okara. Okara has a lot of nutritional value left in it, even though you've made soy milk from it. And what you can use that for is a lot of baked goods. You can make savory things like korokke, as well as unohana, and other types of savory dishes and baked goods as well. So if you're interested, you can always check out my tofu and soy workshop, linked in the description below if you want to learn more about making homemade tofu as well as okara and soy milk based Japanese dishes. If you're new to using soy milk in your cooking, especially your Japanese cooking, you can actually forget the roux, forget any kind of thickener that you might normally use like flour, starch. You can even use brown rice sometimes to thicken up your soups, any kind of gelatin, for example, or if you're using just a traditional stock, beef bones, chicken bones, which have the little gelatin that comes out and coagulates the soup, which you may not notice until it actually cools down, and you'll notice that there's like a thick layer of gelatin, which is not so appetizing in my opinion. But in this case, we are using soy milk, so it's all plant-based. None of that is going to ever happen to you, so don't worry. 心配しないで. So have you ever used soy milk and or okara in your soup? 使ったことありますか? Alright, so one of the reasons that I've been making more soups than usual is because personal situation where somebody close to me is not able to eat solid foods, and so I've been helping her out by making some delicious, velvety, silky, smooth soups at home using my secret, I guess, machine, which is not so secret anymore. I'm going to tell you what it is exactly. And of course, the tounyu and okara. So that's what we're using in these 2 dishes today, and hopefully you'll give them a chance and you can tell me how you like them. Wow. So we're going to be making tounyu soup or soy milk soup 2 different ways, and actually it's not going to be tounyu soup, it's actually going to be kabocha soup and ninjin soup. And I've got all of my ingredients here ready to go. We're not going to be combining them, we're actually going to be making 2 different batches. And here, this is about 3 pounds of roasted carrots, and we have about 1 small kabocha worth of kabocha meat. So the skin has been removed to preserve the gold color, which if you want to get a very nice and rich gold color, you'll need to remove the skin. I usually leave it on for nutritional purposes, but I wanted to do it differently this time. So that's how that looks. So that's about 2 pounds worth. And here we have 2 tablespoons of sake and then 2 tablespoons of shiokoji. And over here we have about 4 cups of homemade soy milk, just regular strength, and then about two onions worth of caramelized onions. So this is about 3/4 of a cup, and I have another one on the stove, so this is just for illustration purposes. And since the kabocha has been semi-cooked in the microwave, we really don't need to cook it too long. We're just going to cook it in a little bit of water with the shiokoji. Same with the carrots. These are also mostly done, so we'll cook this in a little bit of water with the shiokoji, and then also the osake. And then once the alcohol has basically evaporated off, the last thing that we're going to be doing is putting in the soy milk, and as soon as it's heated through, our dish will be complete. And if you're wondering what this dish over here is, this is okara. Okara is the leftover from soy milk, and it's the soybean pulp. It has plenty of fiber, protein, and other nutrients in it, so you can actually use this to thicken your soup. Sometimes I put in maybe like a 1/2 cup to maybe 3/4 of a cup, depending on how thick of a soy milk I've made and also how much water I've already put in. So depending on how thick you like your soups, this is something that you can consider adding, or alternatively save it for something else if you made your soy milk at home. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Okay guys, so on the left side here, we are going to be making the kabocha soup, and this is actually the pot that I used for caramelizing the onions. So you can see there's a little bit of browning in there. So first thing I'm going to do is add in about 2 cups of water. This is what we're going to be using to cook the kabocha. And then over here we have the other pot with the same amount of caramelized onions. We're going to put another 2 cups of water in there. And here is the kabocha. So depending on how thick or thin, soupy you like your soup, you can actually put in a little bit more liquid. It's up to you, but I like it on the thicker side. So as soon as this softens up, what we're going to do is puree it with my immersion blender and then add in the soy milk. So here's the 3 tablespoons of shiokoji, and then here's the carrots. Here's the shiokoji for this one. So I'm going to let each of these cook for about 15 minutes until the vegetables have cooked through completely. You just want them a little bit soft so that they'll puree up very nicely. So once they have cooked for about 10 to 15 minutes, we'll go ahead and put in the osake in each of these. And then we'll finish up with a little bit of the tounyu, the soy milk. So I will see you back in about 15 minutes. Okay guys, so it's been about 15 minutes. You can see the kabocha has softened up pretty significantly. So we're going to turn down the heat to low on both of these. So now what we're going to do is add in the osake. Here it goes. There's one, and then here's the other one. So as soon as the alcohol smell dissipates, we'll go ahead and add in the soy milk and puree everything so that it's nice and smooth. So just give this a few seconds, a few minutes I mean. You can always waft, I think is the science term from science class. If you remember, you're never supposed to sniff your chemicals, you're supposed to waft. So that's what you're supposed to do here. Unless of course you want to get a whiff of the osake. And the important thing here is when we're adding the tounyu, the soy milk, is to make sure that it's not boiling, because what's going to happen is if you add your soy milk to very, very hot liquid or a very hot pot, it's going to curdle. So 3 things can cause your soy milk to curdle. One is going to be acid, things like lemon juice, which is why that can be used to make tofu. Salt, which is why nigari can be used to make tofu as well. And then heat. So you want to make sure that you're using as low of a heat as possible. So if it was boiling, just let it simmer and cool down a little bit before you add it in. That way you'll avoid any kind of separation or curdling. Alternatively, another thing that you can do, like I mentioned, if you're having issues, is to use a little bit of baking soda. That's a tip that can help your soy milk-based soups and stews stay in one piece as opposed to separating into like a liquid section and then a solid section, which is the same thing as curdling and is not very pleasant. And you might not want to eat your food if that happens. So very important things to keep in mind. So I'm gonna let this cool down for a bit, and then we'll go ahead and add in the soy milk, a little bit of pepper, and puree everything, and then we'll be done. So pretty straightforward. My kitchen smells delicious, a little bit like kabocha and a little bit like ninjin or carrot, and cannot wait to eat these. All right, so the alcohol has evaporated off, and what we're gonna do is just try to break any major big pieces into smaller pieces so that they're easier for the food processor or the mixer to blend. So that's what I'm doing here. Turn down the heat to low and go ahead and add in the soy milk. This is 4 cups worth. There's that. And there's that one. So now all we are gonna do is blend everything together. You can put a little bit of cracked pepper if you enjoy that. But we are essentially done. And depending on how thick you like your soups, you could of course continue cooking it to reduce it, make it thicker or more concentrated, or you can actually add a little bit more water if you want it thinner. All right, so for the carrots, I think I'm actually gonna put them in the Vitamix to make it super creamy and super smooth. It's always an option, but that is essentially it. So I know that not everybody has the inclination to make homemade soy milk from scratch, which is totally fine. Just make sure that if you're going to be using store-bought, or if you're lucky enough to have a soy milk maker nearby, that you're using soy milk that is only made from water and soybeans. So make sure you check the ingredients at the back of the box. All it should say is water and soybeans. If it has other stuff, it may not taste as good. And you definitely don't want the sweetened flavored stuff like vanilla, or I don't know what other flavors they have. Original. You don't want any of the soy milk drinks. You want unsweetened, unadulterated soy milk, which is just going to be water and soybeans if you can find it. Try to get organic if you can as well. Desho? Atarimae jan. You want soy milk, not soy beverage or anything flavored or sweetened. So have you ever had disappointing soup because it was either super chunky or it was kind of gritty, the texture was off, or it didn't feel, I guess, kind of filling? Well, I know I've had that happen to me a few times, and one of the ways that I've learned that you can actually fix it in terms of the texture is to use a Vitamix. High-powered blender, high-speed blender. The Vitamix is my blender of choice. I used to have a KitchenAid. The Vitamix actually does a little bit of a better job in my opinion, and even more so than my immersion blender, which I use quite a bit. If you've seen any of my cooking videos, I use it almost every day. And the Vitamix takes that puree up to a whole nother level. You cannot get anything as silky smooth and as evenly, I guess, processed or pureed as a Vitamix. So if you have ever been on the fence on getting one, perhaps this could be the universe sending you a message that maybe now is the time to get one if you want to make, you know, delicious smoothies or soups or anything else that you would normally puree in a Vitamix. And that includes even things like oat flour. If you've ever made your own oat pancakes, you can make your own flours at home using the Vitamix as well. So that's the key. Using a Vitamix. And yes, it really is on a whole nother level. So if you are here on the first floor and you want to go to the 10th floor where the Vitamix is at, it'll be worth it. There's nothing like it, and it's an investment, so it's going to last you a long time, and it's called peace of mind, knowing that you have what you need to make what you want. So your decision. So that was my first tip. The second tip is, this applies if you make your own soy milk at home, is to throw in some of the okara, and to save actually some work for you and not have to strain the okara after you make your soy milk while it still has the okara in it. Before you get the milk out of the mixture, just mix it up so that it's somewhat evenly distributed, and pour some of it into a canning jar or measuring cup and put that directly into your soup. So now you have okara plus soy milk, which is gonna make it extra creamy, extra nutritious. But the key point is to make sure that you're gonna be pureeing it so that you don't get any chunks of soybean / okara if you didn't puree it sufficiently the first time. So that's my other secret tip for making your soy milk soup extra thick and nutritious. So let me know what you think. If you have any questions, comments, tips, suggestions, anything that I missed or you think could be done better for next time, let me know. Would love to hear. I know that there's always room for improvement. And if you want to see more plant-based Japanese cooking videos like this one, subscribe if you haven't already. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and give me a thumbs down. I guess not going to go there about the thumbs down. So you think you'll be upgrading to a Vitamix if you don't already have one? Let me know in the comments. And if you do have one, let me know as well. And if you don't think you will upgrade, then that's totally cool too. And you can also let me know. Be curious. And actually, I did sort of touch on this before, but there's another way that's also just as nutritious as okara, almost as nutritious, a little bit more filling, a little bit more carbs, and that is brown rice or genmai. Genmai is actually one of the things that we'll be covering in my next video. So if you are curious and want to learn how to make some Japanese brown rice dishes, which are some of my favorites because one, they're super nutritious, they're very filling, and they can pack a lot of flavor, and you might be in for a treat if you have never made these before. So stay tuned. Perhaps that will be the topic of my next video. Kamo. かもしれません. Maybe. じゃあね. Bye bye.